Hey everybody, what's up? Today I'm going to talk about World of Tanks for the PlayStation 4. Now I had a small weekend beta that I got the chance to play because it was like free for everybody. So I downloaded it, and while I wasn't a huge fan of the PC version, only because I couldn't run it well, and I didn't care for the whole mouse keyboard control setup, I really enjoyed it here on the PlayStation 4, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. So, if you've been living under a rock for the past, I don't know, 5-6 years, World of Tanks is technically a third-person shooter aspect of the game. You are a tank, and everybody else is a tank. And it takes place during World War II, but I mean, that's kind of obvious. But still. But that said, this game is by no means arcadey. It's actually very simulation-heavy and is pretty indicative of what it was like to fight with tanks way back in the day. There are a variety of tanks to play with as well. Now, light tanks, as you imagine, are light. They're fast, quick on their feet, they can rotate quickly, and usually have low caliber guns to accommodate that speed. But these light tanks are mainly used for flanking the enemy, as some of the bigger tanks, or even the tank destroyers, can't turn all that quickly to match your speed, so you can get behind them to where their armor is weaker and really do some damage there. Medium tanks are a little bit slower, but a little bit harder hitting, and are a little bit tankier, which I don't even know if I should use that term given everything is a tank, but you get my point. And as with the light tanks, the heavy tanks are, well, they're heavy. They're slow, some of them can hit pretty hard, but the main thing is that they are really armored up. It is hard to penetrate their armor if you are attacking from the front, or if your shots are angled. It's, well, they are the guys that block the shots for your weaker units or the harder hitting units on their team. The next tanks you have are the tank destroyers. Now these guys aren't as heavily armored as heavy tanks or medium tanks, and oftentimes don't even have a rotating turret, meaning you have to turn the entirety of the tank to be able to hit a person trying to flank you, which makes you very, very weak to being flanked. However, on the other hand, the game and can oftentimes one-shot light medium tanks given the right angle and armor penetration. And lastly, the artillery. Well, I mean, it's artillery. What do you expect? They're great long range, crappy short range. That's kind of all you really need to know. However, if you are artillery, make sure your shots don't miss, because the reload times can be a bitch. If there's any reason why I found this game so appealing, it was because the strategical depth and the depth of the gameplay and skill ceiling is much, much deeper than what we have to offer in current shooters. You know, shooters like Destiny, Call of Duty, Battlefront, even Halo aren't nearly as in-depth or detailed as this game is. Those games and games like them offer some way to gain a lot of power really quickly that can be used to take out multiple people, often at the same time. I'm looking at you, Destiny, and Call of Duty and Halo, for having basically one-shot kill moves, or giant AoE one-shot kills, stuff like that. You know, like, this game doesn't have that. You're at the right place, at the right time, at the right angle, and for that alone, it's much more satisfying. Granted, I know there's a rather stark difference in that you're playing a tank game versus running around on foot, getting headshots and the like, but still, that doesn't make the skill required any less valid or meaningful. For example, every tank has its own armor rating for the front, sides, and back, and that those individual statistics vary from tank to tank, and you also have to take into account the angle at which you're firing on a tank. If you fire at a perpendicular angle or straight on, then the chances are higher that your shells will actually penetrate that armor, but if you're firing at an angle and your shells hit at an angle, the chances of penetration are a lot lower, which means a lot lower damage. So because of this, conscious placement of your tank as you're doing battle, whether or not you're sniping or engaging an enemy tank or you're trying to flank them, it's always important to keep in mind the angle of your tank, the enemy tank, and that's what makes this game so refreshing. Okay, gushing about gameplay aside, there are a variety of maps, and each map is pretty unique with a bunch of different locales, that are all interesting to look at. And what's really cool is that the weather changes every time you play the map. Or maybe not every time, but it'll cycle through sunny, cloudy, storming, and snow for the most part. I don't know if that cycles on all the maps, but I've seen various maps change. Almost different seasons, different weathers. And it's a really cool dynamic that adds a bit more replayability, a bit more diversity in the visual department. And speaking of visuals, this game is drop-dead gorgeous. For a weekend beta, I would expect something that looked a little bit more rough around the edges, but the way the wind interacts with the grass, the way the rain interacts with everything, the lighting system, the textures, their draw distance, the shadows, it's very impressive looking. And there are only a couple drawbacks visually that I wanted to touch upon. One would be the water, and that it's just not very reactive. Whether, like, if you're driving through it or if you're shooting at it, it just doesn't seem to move much, and the reflections don't seem to all be there. Now, this could change in the full release. This could be just like a beta weekend thing, but it's just something I noticed. And the other thing I noticed is that there are no God rays. There are no crepuscular rays or really volumetric lighting of that sort from the sun. You get a really nice, reactive and very impressive looking sun glare, which reminds me a lot of Battlefield 3. So it's not a total loss. It's just you lose a little bit of that nice visual dressing that you would see in other games of this scope and caliber. Okay, so it looks good, but how does it run? Well, it actually runs really well. I had a pretty much solid 30 frames per second the entire time. And yeah, I know some people are bummed it doesn't run at 60 frames per second, but it never felt to me like my ability to do well was being hampered by the frame rate, just due to the speed of the game. The speed of the game is a little bit slower, so I appreciate, in this particular case, the devs taking their time to make the game look really good and still give us a rock-solid, sub 30 frame rate performance. And to me, that just plays fine. And alongside the visuals comes a really nice audio package that seems to be right on the money as far as replicating what these tanks actually sound like when they move, when they fire, when they explode or have rounds ricocheting off of them. It's all very authentic feeling. I like how your crew will call out that you've hit an enemy, or that rounds have been deflected off of your armor, or that you're reloading, or that you're done reloading. They talk for almost everything that happens in the game. Like, oh, we took another one down. It's really awesome. I love hearing it, and it gives you great feedback as to what's happening in the game. Everything works the way it should be as far as the feedback. So you know when you've seen somebody, or your crew has targeted someone on the field. You know when you're being watched. In short, I love it. And if this kind of thing gets you all hot and heavy, then you'll love it too. In the beta, I only saw 3 different factions. You had the US, the Germans, and the Russians. I know in the full game on the PC at this moment, and I think on Xbox One, there's 7 factions and a lot more tanks. But even in the beta that I played, there were a variety of tanks to unlock and to upgrade, with a lot of different varying stats and gun types, and speeds, and like different upgrade packages. And it's really cool. And the game isn't too grindy. It's pretty generous in what it gives you after you've won a match. There is a premium mode that you can buy that doubles everything that you get. And if you do die a lot, and you do have to spend some of your credits to repair your vehicle or replenish ammo, but it's not going to take all of your credits to do those things, even if you die all the time. Now, speaking of that, there are some premium currency items, and there is a premium currency, and they allow you to buy things for your tank, like better ammunition that might have a little bit more penetration, stronger medkits for your crew inside of your tank, and stronger repair kits for your tank itself. They're just more effective overall. And I don't feel good about having these things included in the game because they give a slight advantage, and I don't like the idea of anything paid giving a slight advantage. So maybe they can tweak that in some way that'd make me feel a little bit better about it. But for the most part, when it comes to the free-to-play aspect of this game, it basically just allows you to progress faster than other players, and that's not a huge deal, since if you progress to the higher tiers of tanks, you're going to be fighting higher tiers of tanks. You're not going to be running around in a tier 7 tank against tier 2s and 3s. There are also a variety of different game modes. However, I only played and really honestly looked at the first game mode, which is the standard 15 versus 15, capture the enemy base or wipe out the enemy team to win. And hey, honestly, that was enough fun on its own, but I am anxious to try the other modes as soon as possible. It also seemed like it was rather easy to team up with friends to do these battles with, and you could even go up against bots for reduced amounts of currency and experience, which I thought was a nice little touch for those who aren't fully confident in their tank piloting skills. So, in summary, the game plays great, the game looks and sounds great, it's free, it's in open beta, or at least it should be pretty soon here. I'm sure they're going to have another open beta weekend, or hopefully just a straight-up full release with a bit more content. But this game's been around, at least on PC, for, geez, what, 6+ years now? And the transformation that it's gone through, at least visually, I've seen some of those videos, like the visual evolution of World of Tanks, and I was just like, wow, this game, I remember playing this game back in the day, like, 6-7 years ago. And it looked like, Garbo, but now it's a looker. So, that all said, I hope you guys are excited to play this as I am, because once this comes out, probably gonna be like absorbed by it until killing other people gets boring. But I don't think it will get as boring as stuff like Destiny or Call of Duty, simply because that skill ceiling is so high. So there's a lot of room for mastery. And as a console gamer, that's been something I've been really craving. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you pound that like button, pound it into the ground for me. I would really appreciate that. It helps out my videos a lot. And if you're a risk taker, feel free to subscribe for more content like this. I enjoy making videos for you guys, as it validates my existence here on this earth. Thank you again for watching my videos, and I will catch you guys next time.